Hi everyone and welcome to a sport and exercise psychology screencast. Today, as you can see, we're going to be focused on the models of exercise behaviour. But first things first, what I'd like you to do is pause this video, have a bit of a recap of the content that we've covered so far and how it relates to the assessment. We've covered stress, anxiety and arousal, also burnout, mental well-being, and in the previous screencast we've covered motivation and how that relates to health and fitness, especially exercise and physical activity. So please have a go at recapping and bringing yourself up to date. For the game plan, as stated, this presentation is going to be on the model of exercise behaviour. So we look at models such as the health behaviour model, theory of planned and reasoned behaviour, also the transfer ethical model, other models that you probably, and concepts and theories that you're familiar with, like self-determination theory. They all interlink and intertwine, so we'll be covering that within this presentation. First, though, again, just to stress the importance of reading book chapters. The chapter 18 is really good to get on some of these models, but also the answers, specifically in regards to like health and fitness. It covers a lot of these theories that we cover in a bit more. So what's the issue then? So here's some key statements taken from publications from the NHS and World Health Organization and so on. And as you can see here, from Simon Stevens, Chief Executive of the NHS, he stated once that if you could pack exercise into a magic pill, it would be a pharmaceutical blockbuster. Everybody's trying to look at easy to get fit and healthy, whereas sometimes it does take that dedication, that bit of motivation to go and strive and achieve your goals. And these models will try and put human behavior into a process, a bit of a method, a bit of a model, how it works, how we kind of appraise situations and how we go and interact with them and so on. So have a go, pause the video and read the others. But there's some key statements here saying what is the issue with public health, especially in the UK. So again, I referred to this in some of the other screencasts, and if you haven't read it already, please refer to it. I can't stress that enough because it is really applicable to the case study. As you can see from the title, it pretty much is the case study in a nutshell. So please have a look and see what it's talking about. This is a case study, so just to refresh you, we're talking about Yvonne here. We've seen where her BMI lands, her height and weight, so I will go at working that out, but you could probably suggest that she does fall into that overweight category. Predominantly inactive, as we know, just recently given up smoking after 38 years, so was a chronic smoker. So bear in mind all these factors, and these are the factors that you can speak about and discuss and relate to the case, relate to the assessment. It gives you a chance to get those D1s, D2s, and D3 grades. So here is a snapshot of some theories, models of exercise behaviour. One that takes into consideration belief and attitude. For example, there's the theory of planned behaviour, or theory of reasoned and planned behaviour as it's sometimes referred to. Obviously, competence-based theories. So we've got self-efficacy theory, control-based, we've got self-determination theory, stage-based, transtheoretical model, and then you've got some hybrid models. So we're going to focus on the health belief model, theories of reason and planned behaviour, transtheoretical model, and we're going to slightly touch upon self-determination theory, but you should be familiar with that. So the health belief model then. So this model suggests that the likelihood of someone participating in exercise, or for example, maintaining a good diet or a healthy lifestyle, depends on how the individual, one, perceives the severity of that potential illness or disease, and also how they perceive the costs and benefits of engaging in that activity. So it's a bit like a weighing scale. So each individual will view the severity of the situation in different ways. Put it on a spectrum, someone might see it as very severe, others might be laid back and not be that fussed at all. But also then you've got to take into consideration how the individual perceives the costs and benefits of it. If they engage within exercise on a regular basis, does that mean that they've got to withdraw themselves from social situations, can't go out drinking as much, can't have takeaways or so on? But the benefits then is that physical appearance, maybe mentality improves. So the health belief model tries to take into consideration perceptions, individual perceptions of how they see that potential illness or disease, and then the perceived costs and benefits of engaging in those activities. So as stated here, a challenge of applying that healthy lifestyle through the health belief model is that undesirable effects of not exercising and leading a sedentary lifestyle do not appear for many years. So the health belief model believes that an individual only changes their behavior only acts upon it when there's pretty much a severe case and an immediate threat that's occurred. So by snapping your finger, something's been said, something's been done, and then they've got to implement that and change it. Whereas when you think about having a sedentary lifestyle, having an unhealthy lifestyle, that can occur over many months, many years, and it's very gradual. It's not an instantaneous, click of the fingers, I've got to change. So it's very gradual. It's quite hard to apply it. So as the final bullet point says, there's no immediate threat. Therefore, it's a potential flaw in the model. Something to bear in mind with the health belief model is that it was originally designed for illnesses and diseases. It wasn't designed for physical activity, exercise, or healthy lifestyles as such. It was mainly, due to illness and disease. So it would be a case if someone got diagnosed with, a severe illness, it's just that instantaneous click of fingers, I've been diagnosed with it, I've got to change. Whereas you don't necessarily have a click of the fingers and get diagnosed with obesity. It happens over a period of time. Therefore, it could be a potential flaw in this model. But then when you're applying it to the case of Yvonne, she's had an instantaneous or a immediate input stimulus that's caused her to start to exercise or potentially consider it because she got diagnosed by the doctor, she got referred, and they suggested that she could do it. So there is argument there for you to apply it, but it's just how you argue it, it's just how you support it. So please bear that in mind. So here it says, so support the belief model initiate an exercise program is far more likely when there is urgency about one's current health status. So obviously, if it's that immediate threat, then that's how it's more applicable. For example, the person who believes that the potential illness is serious, that he or she is at risk, and that the pros of doing exercise outweigh the cons, if that's the situation, what do you think you would do? If you believe that there's a potential illness, there's a high risk, and that the pros of doing that activity of exercise outweighs the cons, it's pretty much a no-brainer. You probably would think, I'll do it. However, if it's on the other spectrum, you might be thinking, what's the point, what's the benefit? So here, he or she is likely to adopt that target health behaviour, have a good diet and exercise regularly, because it outweighs the cons, it's beneficial. However, from Berger et al. 2002, suggests that even though this model is used to predict exercise behaviour, the results are inconsistent as the model was first developed to focus on disease, not exercise. So like I mentioned previously, there is critique there because it was originally developed for disease and illness, but it's been applied to exercise. So it's kind of just been fit in there, tried to be, bodged up, if that makes sense. So there is that critique aspect. Theories of reason or theory of reasoned and action and planned behaviour. So this model is where exercise behaviour is made up of these kind of four processes, stages of an individual. So it's a person's attitudes, person's social norms, person's intentions, and a person's perceived behavioural control. So an example of that is the person's attitudes about that behaviour. So what is their attitude about exercise and physical activity? Got to come to that. Then it's the person's social norms of that behaviour. So what are the social norms, where they integrate, who they are surrounded by, what are the social norms? Do their family engage in exercise, or do they binge and have takeaways every single night? Depending on those social norms can influence the amount of effort that person will exude. So say if it's an individual wanting to change their health behaviour, but everyone around them, friends, family, are all, sedentary, don't take part in exercise, have poor diet, then, that social norm is going to influence their overall behaviour. The person's intentions, so what is their intention? How do they intend to exercise? And then also finally, the person's behavioural control. How long do they think they'll be able to maintain and last? Are they quite resilient? Are they mentally tough to keep maintaining it? All these are considered. So here, from the final bullet point, you can see quality and strength of intentions are important, as well as people's perceptions of their ability to perform better in influencing behaviour. So when it's coming to regards to intentions, it's probably referring to what are the person's targets, goals, what are their intentions, what they're trying to achieve there. So as you can see, this model suggests that people who believe that exercise participation will produce the expected benefits, for example, are more likely to be physically active. So if they perceive, that behaviour, exercise, physical activity, if they perceive that will produce, or taking part will produce expected benefits, they're more likely to be physically active. Therefore, believing that exercise will not result in meeting required goals, or have intended benefits, or having past experiences that were unpleasant, for example, that individual then will be more likely to result in negative attitudes towards physical activity, kind of withdraw themselves from it, detach themselves from it. Then there's the transtheoretical model. So here again, you've got kind of 6 stages, and as you can see, we'll move to the next slide where it's a bit of a cycle. You'll see it in different stages, step by steps. But you've got pre-contemplation. So this is where an individual does not exercise, so they're not even contemplating it as of yet. Then you've got contemplation, so has feelings and thoughts about exercising. Preparation, exercises but not regular enough, so takes part in stuff, maybe getting ready, prepping for it, maybe changing a bit of the diet, getting ready for that health behaviour change. For action, so this is where the person's been exercising regularly, but for less than 6 months. So they're just in that action phase, they've just started off and just implementing their kind of training program. Maintenance, this is in regards to when an individual's been exercising regularly for more than 6 months. So it's that maintenance period. It's only considered maintenance once it goes past that 6-month period. And then there's 6, the final stage, which is termination. So this is once exercise for 5 years. So that's it step by step. But when we look at it in these kind of stages in the cyclical model, the cycle model, you'll see how it gets a bit more complex than this. So, transtheoretical model. I want you to pause this video and have a look at it. Is there any issues with this model? Think about an exercise individual. Do they go through these 6 stages as naturally as that? Do they come out of them, re-enter at different points? Just think about it for a second. Pause the video and think about these processes. Is exercise behaviour as straightforward as this? And also, what usually happens when an individual starts to exercise for the first time? Is it as easy as maintaining it for 6 months or more, going on for 5 years? Is there going to be some holdbacks, step backs, things that are going to be challenging for them? So have a go, pause the video, make some bullet points and think about it, because remember, to get the higher grades in your assessment, it's all about critique, critical thought. If you can apply that in your assessment, you'll be in a really strong position. So hopefully you've done that. And when it comes to it, it's not as straightforward as going around this cycle. There's such things, or there's such instance as relapse, and it happens to the best of us. It happens to all of us at times, especially when it comes to exercise and physical activity. Doesn't always happen at the end either. So it might say that you go through pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and then relapse towards the end. You might get to contemplation and then think, actually, stuff that, I'm not doing it. So you exit it and then restart again. You might get to action phase, then go out and restart again. But it's not saying go back to the beginning, and this is why I like this image, because you could get to the action stage to relapse, but then go straight back into the preparation phase. It doesn't mean that you're going to quit here and not even think about it anymore. You're probably just going to go back and restart again in different sections. So it is a bit more complex. It's not as straightforward as what you'd probably think. So think about relapse and think about the case study. We're saying Yvonne starting the gym for the first time. She suffers highly from anxiety. Therefore, there is potential to relapse. What you need to be addressing is that strategic anxiety plan. What will you put in place? What kind of interventions will you suggest to help prevent or reduce the chance of relapse? That's what we're looking for. Here, this is the model to kind of explain what we're saying about how you could enter at many stages and exit at many stages. Here we've got the cycle, but again, it's saying about, relapse. You could leave it here, rejoin here, leave it here, rejoin here, leave it here, rejoin there. Maintenance, you could potentially exit, so on, and it goes round. So please consider that when you're discussing it. Here we've got physical activity behaviour change, interventions based on the transtheoretical model, a systematic review. Now remember, a systematic review compares many studies and their findings. So if you're thinking about looking at the transtheoretical model, have a glance at this article. See what the main findings are. How will it apply? How can you apply it? It's up to date as well. It's very contemporary. Self-determination theory. I'm not going to go into it in too much depth and detail because we have covered this in a lot of depth, but remember, it's autonomy, competency, and relatedness. Those who do not have these basic needs will be more prone to burnout. Therefore, if they're prone to burnout, they're probably more likely to drop out, withdraw from a situation like we covered in this last screencast. So they're probably going to relapse. Therefore, we need to strengthen this. So obviously, offering intrinsic motivation is what you need for that individual to, sustain something over a long period of time. You can keep extrinsically motivating with rewards and feedback, but if it keeps getting repetitive, keeps getting the same, then it's going to be quite mundane, quite boring, and it's not going to be the exact same as innately, that natural, innate, within yourself drive to achieve goals and targets. You want to be strengthening intrinsic motivation. If you haven't got any motivation, remember, amotivation, it's that lack of, any motivation to do anything. So you want to strengthen self-determination, because then that's going to hopefully help someone and that individual maintain their exercise goals. Participants will display autonomy in their exercise behaviour and have strong social support systems that exhibit stronger motivation and enhanced exercise adherence. So therefore, this is suggesting that if we can increase Yvonne's autonomy, so control in her setting her own targets potentially, in doing what exercises she wants to do rather than just prescribing it to her, then it's going to improve her motivation levels. But also having a strong social support system. Pause the video and think, how could we offer a strong social support system? If she's at a gym, what do gyms offer? What other scenarios could be offered? What could family potentially do to help improve her social support? So think about that, especially when you're applying it to the case study. Therefore, the final point, self-determination theory was able to predict adherence in overweight and obese participants. So when you're thinking about Yvonne's case study and that BMI level, self-determination theory is applicable, and it has shown that overweight and obese participants, it's been able to predict adherence to those exercise regimes. So then, potential interventions. Pause this video, have a brainstorm. What would you suggest for our case study or in general of how we could improve and maintain exercise adherence? So have a go for that now. So if you've done that, and here's some suggestions, and I've probably mentioned these to you before. Motivational interviewing, it's a great technique to improve autonomy and competency. Autonomy, but also competency, so it gives them that knowledge base, that self-understanding, but it also gives them that self-control, making their own decisions through action planning. This interlinks with goal setting and target setting, because action planning is part of that process. That also will influence and improve autonomy and competency. Setting achievable goals, meeting self-set standards, they're all applicable to improving that. When it comes to relatedness, feedback is a great technique, such as positive feedback, constructive feedback, to encourage and motivate individuals. It can make individuals feel at ease, offer them social support. If you compare, an example could be if you compare against initial exercise results. So for example, when you first started this regime, you weighed 11.5 stone. After 2 weeks, you're now 11.3 stone, or something along those lines. Those little pieces of feedback, those little things that can motivate individuals are a great way to improve relatedness, social support. Think about gyms, their settings, their environments. They offer exercise classes. There's also Weight Watcher classes. Those kind of environments where everyone's trying to achieve a common goal. If you remember from your first assessment about group and team dynamics, so improving group cohesion and so on, meeting and striving to achieve a common target, a goal. Hopefully then you'll support and motivate one another and keep each other focused. An example of where you can get some more information on motivational interviewing is a chapter 6 in Doing Exercise Psychology by Anderson. That's 2015. So have a go at finding that book chapter and having a read. It's really beneficial. This is just some added information in regards to a study. So Michi et al., so Michi and colleagues, 2011, create this behavior change wheel because there were many frameworks of behavior change interventions that existed, and they tried to group it all together through a systematic review in a way. So as it says from the first bullet point, there's a plethora of frameworks. So this means there's a vast range, but it's not clear how well they serve, for example, the purpose that they're trying to achieve. Therefore, this paper evaluated such frameworks and develops and evaluates a new framework aimed at overcoming their limitations. So as you can see around the outside, we've got environmental social planning, communication, legislation. Then it goes down to training, enablement, modeling. Then there's capability, motivation, opportunity. It goes down to reflective, physiological, psychological, social, and so on. So breaking that down then, Michi and colleagues, for example, found that if we further focus on active interventions that engage participants in the process of behavior change rather than passive interventions, such as simply providing information or advice. So this is saying that, yeah, it's great to hand out leaflets and it's great to, speak to a doctor and someone tell you about it, providing information. What you need to do is interventions that engage participants in the actual process. So those step-by-step processes that we've seen in some of those models. If you can engage them in that process, then they're more likely to adhere and change their behavior styles. So Michi found that there were 26 behavior change techniques and self-regulation techniques recorded. So what I'll do now is I'll show you some of these techniques. 1 to 26, these are some techniques that can help improve and maintain exercise behavior. So for example, set graded targets, time management, motivational interviewing, stress management. We've got here prompt specific goal setting. We've also got teach to use prompts and cues, provide contingent rewards, use of follow-up prompts, barrier identification. These are some things that you can refer to and discuss, and this is all from Michi and these colleagues in 2009. They covered all these which are techniques and ways to help improve adherence to behaviour change. So then, simple strategies that I've broken down for you to have a look at. Prompts. So prompting someone. This could be leaving your gym bag out in front of you or in the car on the passenger seat. So every time you go to it, then you can see it. Could potentially be leaving a note on the fridge door to stay healthy, stick to your healthy diet. 2 could be contracting. This could be personal contracting. So you sign yourself a personal contract to what you want to do and what you want to achieve by what date and time. So you contract yourself to it. Also, there could be another style of contract where you sign a contract up to a gym. So then therefore you feel like you motivate yourself to do it because you're wasting money if not. 3, decision balance sheet. So this is a way to split a piece of paper in half, pros, cons on each side, and you list what the benefits would be and what the drawbacks could potentially be. Therefore, it helps you decide what you should be doing. Before offering rewards, so every time you do, you might treat yourself. It could be anything, but offering rewards is another strategy to enhance adherence. And then finally, there's also social support, which we've covered. A bit of that self-determination theory about relatedness, having friends, family who support you, also being part of a group that can help maintain adherence is fantastic as well. So behavior modification approaches. So behavior modification is a planned, systematic application of learning principles to the modification of behavior. So if you can learn something new, if you can learn these strategies, these interventions, then hopefully it can modify your behavior. These could be prompts, such as verbal, physical, or symbolic cues to initiate behavior. So like I mentioned earlier about posters encouraging people to take the stairs, it could be placing your running shoes by your bed. So when you wake up, you see them and it prompts you to go do a run. Contracting, participants enter into a contract with exercise practitioners. Could be signing up to a gym membership, could be signing up to yourself about some goals and targets you want to hit, a personal trainer, and so on. These will all help modify your behavior. There's such things as reinforcement approaches, so chart attendance and participation, keeping up to date with like a schedule, a diary. Rewards to improve attendance, but must be provided throughout the length of the program. So at consistent intervals, reward the individual. Like I mentioned earlier, feedback, positive and constructive feedback is great to motivate individuals. And also self-monitoring techniques. So participants keep written records of their physical activity. Keep a bit of a diary to keep you up to date with what you're doing step by step, day by day. Cognitive behavioral approaches. So things, cognitive behavioral approach intertwined. So about your mental state and your actual behaviors. This could be goal setting. For example, it should be used to motivate individuals. So it should be realistic targets, those kind of process targets, not the outcome, because you want to make processes step by steps to motivate that individual. Exercise related goals should be, self-set rather than instructor set. So when we talked about motivational interviewing, action planning, it allows that competency, that bit of autonomy to set yourself your own standards to hit and meet. Also flexible rather than fixed. So they should be flexible, allowed to be changed and altered depending on how you're doing. And also time-based rather than distance-based. So the progressive time, that process stage, rather than just the actual distance that you've made. Also, like we talked about decision-making approaches, I talked about decision balance sheets, ensuring that you make sure you weigh up the pros and cons of each one, and that will hopefully decide what you need to be doing. And that's an example of how you could do that. Each side you've got it, and it's a bit like a weighing scale, trying to see if it balances out. Social support, like we said, it could be spouse, it could be family member, friend, exercise group, exercise team, will hopefully have a favourable attitude towards another person's involvement in that exercise program, so it will motivate them. Social support can be enhanced by participation in a small group, the use of personalised feedback, and the use of a buddy system. So a lot of people have been referring to going to the gym with a friend, that gym buddy, there to motivate you, doing it together, and it's kind of a social cohesion process. Like I mentioned, motivational interviewing, so it's an intervention to increase the likelihood of a client considering initiation and maintain specific strategies to reduce harmful behaviour via an interview. So this is where motivation to change is elicited from the client rather than the counsellor. What we mean by elicited is that it's drawn from the individual and not the healthcare professional. So when you sit down in a one-to-one meeting, if it was with a doctor, Usually you sit there, nod your head and agree to what they say, and they prescribe everything for you, that medication, that behavior change that they suggest. However, with motivational interviewing, it works in a client-led perspective. So the client makes all the decisions. The counselor or the individual, the professional, is there to facilitate change. They're not there to prescribe, they're not there to dictate, they're there just to try and withdraw the answers from that individual themselves. So it could be a case of asking open questions, speaking to that individual, trying to ask them what they think the issue is, how they think they can overcome it, and then they set their own targets and goals they've action planned to change. It allows them autonomy and competency. There's also a potential relatedness there as well, because you get that social support from that individual. So it's a client-counselor relationship. It's more of a partnership rather than a dictatorship. Rather than the professional giving all that advice and prescribing it, it's more of a partnership, working together, helping one another. Again, chapter 6, make sure you have a look at that. So Yvonne then. So now, after covering all that, and I've gone over it in a lecture style, but please pause the video and rewind if you need to go back over anything. But what would you set in place to help control her anxiety? From what we've discussed, start contemplating what you would include in your anxiety control plan and why. So for your assessment, just do some bullet points of techniques, which behavior change model do you think applies best to Yvonne? Self-determination theory, trans-theoretical model, theory of planned and reasoned behavior, or could it be health belief model, or any others that are out there? So think about what applies to her, what could relate, what she potentially would go through, and what interventions you'd put in place. So finally, just to summarize then, for this assessment, it is groups of 4. So please ensure you get into groups of 4. It's a 20-minute presentation, 10% as well added, so 22% max. Please check Moodle for the date of the assessment. It will be on the brief and also the time. So I think originally it might have been around 2:45. I'll put it to 2:30 because that's usually when his lesson starts. So instead of delaying time and making people wait, we'll start at 2:30. But please check the assessment brief just to confirm that. So please check the date and please check the time. So that's everything from me. If you've got any questions, guys, you can always drop me an email. So don't think that you've got plenty of questions that you're going to go unanswered. Remember, you can always still come to the sessions. I've always said that, and you can still drop me an email if there's anything there. So hopefully everything's been all right. Hopefully you can enjoy your weekend. And that's everything from me. And I'll see